So the account it has, I think, so pretty much a very bad first impression. I mean, I don't know. I didn't read the synopsis. I generally try not to, so I go in without knowing anything, just the title at most. Now, sure, the title didn't exactly indicate. Well, that's the point. It didn't indicate the level of violence. That's I don't know. I mean, it's quite something. Now, I can see why they did it, but it still got me on the wrong foot. And if I was someone who just turn off something because of excessive violence, for example, and I probably would have done so. What I ended up doing is just procrastinate on continuing. I suppose essentially, this is the problem, right? I mean, I thought it was like most other, violent movies. Kind of like what was that nonsense with from Paris with Love? Yeah, that's the worst thing ever. In a way, from Paris with Love, that was a bit the other way around. I mean, it's not like this had a lot of violence at the end as well. Most violent movies do. Generally, at the end, stuff happens. Yay! It somehow, it tried something else. This did somehow. The problem is that it was still very violent. So, in terms of, in comparison to this, specifically with other movies, generally violent movies, no, it was very, I mean, above average, it seems. But at least in the story, you know. So, kind of like was there in a way, it was fairly violent. But at least in the story. Metaphors about chess, etc. Dance as well, if I remember correctly. So at least there's something. It's better than just violence on its own. Obviously. I don't know why such movies even exist. Why you get violence in that, just that. So at least it tried something else, but it was still extreme in my opinion. And in a way, it took the extreme approach to the protagonist's characters. Like you cannot go from A to B. So just you just cannot. But this is the funny thing. They show someone else there at the end that somehow remain the same in comparison to when she was a child to when she's another. And these things don't work like this. I mean, he changed so much. Not even going to say so much more, because she didn't change at all. And now people do change, but not that much. So it really went the extreme approach for everything, including violence, right? It could have toned it down a bit. It would have been more interesting, most of the non-violent parts were interesting, but the main point of the story of the plot, isn't quite very sensible. I mean, you know, sure, it's understandable at the end that that guy somehow wanted to embezzle money, presumably. I mean, I don't know if you found a company, then isn't it technically, as in, I mean, well, you get shares, but then, you know, uh, j- yeah, they obviously didn't go into very much more detail in that, obviously, but I mean, it's not like I want to know every single accounting detail. It's not that I wanted to know every single number or anything. And I suppose in terms of how far they went with how he worked with numbers, etc. I think that was adequate. Sort of like a Beautiful Mind. I think it reminded me of that. At least he did something similar there. John Nash, Russell Crowe's character. But of course, a Beautiful Mind didn't have any such violence. At least it only had uh, to a certain extent. And of course, it also didn't have this huge degree of change that miraculously happened. Like it's a bit too much, just a slight bit. Other than that, though, I suppose they tried, they sort of tried. to do it appropriately, contextually, but it's still. I mean, okay, that is unique. So that's something unique that most other violent movies don't have. Most other violent movies only hinge on a supposed plot point that is really a device. Really, so for most movies, the device is very shallow usually. Kind of like some stuff in movie that I commented on once as well, where he happens to have a child and she happens to remember all the numbers in the world. So in a way, sort of tangential to this, but beyond that, there isn't really anything at all. You know, it's just non-stop violence. So in that sense, though, this is an improvement on that because it's not just non-stop violence, but it's still very violent. And the ending is too much, honestly. Like I don't know why people do this. Like do they go and think, yeah, this is cool, in inverted commas? I bet they do. Yeah, and they think that somehow it's interesting to just continuously shoot. Just what? It's not interesting. It's boring actually, and in fact, it's just irritating. I mean, it makes no sense anyway, and even the fact he shot the founder, it makes very little sense. I hate such endings, honestly. Kind of like another ending that I saw recently when it comes to, well, another violent movie, obviously. But yeah, I hate it, honestly. Like, what's the point of this? Like, is there no such thing as a, is it too much to ask for a trial? I'm just saying, the trials don't exist in the accounting world. And obviously, the thing with the twist, the twist is a bit too much. Like, great, they just happen to meet at the very end. Oh, what a coincidence. And then they fight like they're brother bears or something. It's ridiculous, honestly. Uh, makes very little sense. It's not like he says much before that. In fact, he says nothing as far as I know. But somehow, then at the very end, after nearly 2 hours, he's all like, "Oh, didn't you miss me? I just miss you." You didn't even say a word. How could I miss you? You were practically mute as far as I knew until the very end when you suddenly find out you aren't, apparently. And somehow he's an assassin as well. Like, how do these things happen? Do they like, go to assassin school together? It just makes no sense, honestly. So, it had defects. It had weird plot thingies, like many other movies do. But at least, yeah, sure, it has something that is more than just a shallow device. It seems to me. I mean, it could have been a shallow device, kind of like that, this stuff in the movie, as I said, with the girl, but uh, it's not. It did go beyond a bit. I mean, obviously, he happens to be the protagonist as opposed to, a little girl that's being taken along for the ride by Jason Statham, and she's just in the back and cowering. And what I mean, makes very little sense. This, but what makes this still makes little sense though in terms of how the films and change and such. I mean, in terms of how accurate he is with his shots and how far away he can shoot. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's possible. No, but that's not the point. The point is it's still extreme. It tackles things from an extreme perspective, and that is a problem generally when it's better to be moderate when it comes to movie making, in my opinion.